Bledsoe was arrested.
Patrick Montgomery was in court.
Jonathan Manapa will stay in federal custody.
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. So 35-year-old Virginia resident and Army veteran Casey Tryon-Castro was one of the first people to arrive at the Capitol on January 6th. She maneuvered toward the front of a police line, and for about 90 minutes, she was watching as other people were trying to rip the barricades away from the police. And as the mob pulled a steel lamppost down, I mean, literally broke it, like pulled it down. And, you know, pulled it down like Mike Lindell wants to do with the election. Anyway, Tryon-Castro was just seen standing there watching them, smiling as they destroyed property on the Capitol grounds. She was also seen assisting other people in the billboard attack on officers. I've mentioned this before. This attack involved this massive Trump sign. It was framed in metal, and it had these large wheels on it that were the size of a man's head. And the mob picked this up, they turned it on its side, and they used it like a battering ram against the police line. So after taking part in that attack, Tryon-Castro followed officers who had retreated when their police line fell, and she was seen entering the Lower West Terrace tunnel. So by this time, she had found a flagpole somewhere along the way, and as she entered the tunnel, Tryon-Castro repeatedly banged the pole on the ground. So she briefly exited the tunnel, and when she returned, Tryon-Castro made her way to the front of the mob, and then that's when the crowd started to push against each other and against the police. And Tryon-Castro was pinned in between the two groups. So she was yelling out for help, and a police sergeant actually tried to help her. So these are people attacking them, you know, coming after them, and the police are still helping them. So he screamed for the mob to stop, and he said, you know, you guys are crushing her. So he helped. Tryon-Castro was actually able to move aside. However, she didn't leave the tunnel at that point. In fact, she moved towards the mouth of the tunnel and then started yelling to the mob, encouraging them to push even more. So the police who just saved her from being crushed, she's like, get them. I mean, unbelievable what traitors these people are. So Tryon-Castro screamed, quote, "Take our fucking country back." And then she repeatedly yelled, push. And then she told the mob, quote, "Don't let them take the doors," and, quote, "open the doors." So I guess they weren't doing it right, though, because she worked her way back toward the police line, and then along with another member of the mob, she forced the door open. So then she moved back into the mob, and she started pushing on the backs of people in front of her who were pushing against the police. And when someone in the crowd yelled to take police's shields, she yelled out, "Okay," and then she was seen grabbing one of the officers' riot shields. So Tryon-Castro held onto this shield for 13 seconds, and then with the help of other people, she was able to rip the shield away from the officer, and she passed it back to the mob. So a short time later, someone yelled out to make a shield wall, and the mob started passing stolen riot shields forward toward the police. So Tryon-Castro had moved to the front of the line again, and she told others around her, quote, "We gotta get the shields in front, y'all. Get the shields in front." So after that, she was seen directly in front of the officers. She was pushing against them for at least 2.5 minutes, the video showed. And Tryon-Castro then moved to a space between the door and the tunnel wall. And you guys will remember her from the video where Officer Daniel Hodges was brutally beaten with his own baton, and then he was being crushed between the door frame and the mob. So she was standing there, she was watching this attack. She sees him screaming in agony after he was just beaten in the face. And she asked him, "Are you okay?" What do you think, genius? I mean, seriously. So she still did not leave the tunnel at that point. Instead, she moves back into the mob. she resumes pushing on the backs of other people who were pushing against the police. Eventually, after she was doused with pepper spray, Tryon-Castro finally exited the tunnel. And then sometime after that, she left the Capitol grounds. So when the FBI interviewed her on January 25th of 2021, she admitted to all of her actions. She also confirmed seeing Officer Hodges being attacked. And she said she saw people with zip ties and someone who said something to the effect of, "We are going to arrest them for treason." So Tryon-Castro was arrested on January 17th of 2023, and she was charged with civil disorder, robbery, 2 counts of assaulting officers, entering a restricted building or grounds, disorderly conduct in a restricted building or grounds, physical violence in a restricted building or grounds, and impeding passage on Capitol grounds. Tryon-Castro refused a plea deal. She opted for a trial, and the prosecutor said she made numerous statements to the jury, which completely contradicted her statements to the FBI. So Tryon-Castro also made statements that were clearly false based on the video evidence. So for instance, she told the jury she didn't push against officers in the tunnel. So, of course, the prosecutor showed the jury video in which she was seen pushing directly against the police for, again, almost 3 minutes. And she was seen and heard yelling out, quote, I'm okay, I'm pushing." So I wasn't pushing against them, but I told people I was pushing. So in June of 2024, the jury found Tryon-Castro guilty on all counts. She was looking at a combined 39 and a half years in prison, over 12 years of probation, and more than $1 million in fines. In this case, the court asked for a sentence of 80 months in prison, 3 years of probation, and $2,000 in restitution. Now, normally they would ask for much less, but Tryon-Castro was arrested again after she was convicted in this case, and she refused a plea deal. So, automatically that gets you a lengthier sentence. In regard to the additional arrest, this is something I shared a while back. You might not remember, but in August of 2024, the police were called out to a park because they said there was this woman who had snuck into a concert and she refused to leave. That would be Tryon-Castro. So the police found that Tryon-Castro was intoxicated and she refused to answer after they repeatedly asked her, "What's your name?" She eventually yelled at them, "None of your fucking business." So the police tried to take her into custody and she resisted and then she tried to run away. They caught her, of course. They took her to jail. And she still was belligerent. So the correctional officers tried to change her into obviously something other than the clothes that she was in. And she assaulted them and she tried to bite one of the deputies in the leg. And then she also kicked another deputy multiple times, kicked her in the knee, the shoulder, and the chin. And this isn't the only alcohol-related arrest and conviction for Tryon-Castro. She's had a couple of convictions for driving under the influence. She had another arrest for public swearing or intoxication. And check this out. This woman has 7 children in her household. She has 3 from her own previous relationship, 1 with her current partner, who is also facing charges for January 6th, by the way. And then he has 3 kids from one of his previous relationships. I don't want to hear MAGA, I don't want to hear about how, the DOJ is locking up a young mother with 7 kids. If you are so self-indulgent that you can make the time to go assault officers in another state, and then you have the time to go get loaded and sneak into a concert and then assault more officers, you don't get to play the mommy card. Sorry, no, not going to fly. I just feel sorry for these kids. With parents like these, not a good upbringing. Does not bode well for their future. So anyway, U.S. District Judge Rudolph Contreras presided over Tryon-Castro's case, and he ended up sentencing her to only 31 months in prison, 3 years of probation, and $2,000 in restitution. As I've said before, The female January 6 convicts have consistently received lower sentences than the men. And it's bullshit. I don't think it's fair. And, let's hope Trump is not going to give her a pass, because she obviously needs help and she needs a big wake-up call. The silver lining is that, given this woman's behavior, I think it's safe to say she's bound to get herself arrested again in the near future, even if he does let her off the hook. So I'll definitely let you know. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please like, please share, and subscribe to the channel. Please donate if you can. Love you all. Take care. Talk with you soon.